Hey guys, it's Rachel. It's Thankful Thursday. I'm in my bathroom because the light in my room is just really bad, and I think I need a new webcam as well, so the quality of the video isn't great, so I do apologise for that. So yeah, I'm sat on my bathroom floor hoping that this quality is a little bit better. Today I'm going to be talking about the new year, and last week in my video I know I touched on kind of the holidays, Christmas time, and I know that I said towards the end of my video that there would probably be a video the week after that was sort of more concerning the new year. I know there was a kind of bit of an overlap because I know that Ariel last week discussed both, and she extended on that this week, and I actually think that the video that she made was superb because she, you know, broke down the year, and I know that she sort of asked you as viewers to follow her advice in terms of blocking out each month and kind of what you'd achieved or something you'd overcome in that month. And so I'm kind of going to run with that a little bit because I think that's a really amazing idea actually, and it's something I certainly hadn't thought about. And I'm going to put a link here to my blog because I did a piece of writing yesterday which very much concerned, I wanted to kind of reflect on the decade, you know, given that it's going to be 2011 and that I got ill in sort of, you know, in the turn of the new millennium really. But I decided to just focus on this past year and kind of reflect a little bit, and that's something that I do every day now. I know that I kind of disappeared from your screens around July time. I actually had a really bad breakdown and ended up in hospital. And what I've kind of been doing since then, not straight away, but certainly these past few months, and what I do believe is what's keeping me stable, as I have, you know, severely limited my therapy, and I'm not really particularly in therapy. I mean, I see a psychiatrist for med checks, but that's about it really. Is that something I do each day, and it's not so much the writing, but maybe there is the healing in the writing, is to just give myself like 20 minutes, not right at the end of the day when I'm really tired, but kind of just after dinner, and I kind of sit and I don't necessarily overanalyze myself or the situation, but I try to just think about what's happened in that day. You know, is there anything that's particularly triggered me or upset me, anything I've particularly found difficult? And that tends to come out not so much with conscious thought but unconsciously. So my kind of idea, I know the new year can be really difficult because people kind of think, oh, New Year's resolutions, clean slate, I can start again. And I don't particularly think that's helpful because I think that then we can all be gung-ho about it in the new year, and then, you know, a few weeks in it's kind of, you know, everybody gives up. The most obvious is people going on diets. Oh, it's in the new year, I'm going to lose all that Christmas weight, and it lasts for about 3 weeks and then they kind of give up. So I don't want you to focus especially on building up huge big goals for the new year because I don't particularly think that's going to help you. I think that it's nice to have small goals. I think that it's nice to say, right, okay, we're going into a new year. By kind of the spring, I'd like to have achieved this. If I don't achieve it, it's not the end of the world, but that's kind of what I'm going to work towards. Because I'm certainly one of those people, and I don't know about you, but I do think it's quite common within these difficulties, and a theme that runs through recovery is to have mini goals. And I know a lot in treatment, it revolves around weight and stuff, and whilst I'm not saying that weight isn't an important factor in recovery, it can't be the only factor, and of course food can't be the only factor. It can't only just be about adding a certain food and all the rest of it. We have to have something outside of our eating disorder, something that gives us a bit of passion, gives us a bit of oomph. You know, it's like, right, I'd really like to take a new course, I'd really like to learn calligraphy. I don't know, that was just the top of my head, and you might not feel ready to do it in the new year, but you might say, right, by the spring I'd like to think that maybe I could start something like that, or I could work towards going to a group or that type of thing. I don't want you to do something and put so much pressure on yourself that you end up feeling like you're failing. The importance is having the idea, having a thought and thinking, that is something I would like to be able to achieve. If I don't achieve it, then that's okay. Something I did, and it was you know, quite a big thing I guess, was when I started recovery in 2004, I kind of thought, you know, as it got to the summer and I was gaining a bit of weight, and initially they were weight related, food related, but as I began to heal and to recover from the anorexia, I did sort of start to look at, say, a college course. I thought, you know, then I thought about university. I looked at a part-time university course, and in the end, when I'd inquired, I found out it was full-time. And I made those kind of steps, and it was very difficult because I did put myself under a huge amount of pressure, which I think is, you know, synonymous with all of this, because we feel we need to prove ourselves or what have you. But what I did do was start my university course, which expanded my social network. I did try and reconnect with old friends who I'd kind of pushed away when I was ill. And so, yes, the new year was, the idea of coming into 2004 was incredibly frightening and scary, especially given I'd discharged myself against medical advice. But I saw it as the beginning of something. I saw it as an opportunity, and although it felt overwhelming at the time, I did feel like I just didn't want another year which was going to be full of illness. So I think that if you can reflect on it and think of it that way, that can be incredibly positive. So moving on from, you know, kind of what Ariel said, I guess what my challenge would be for you in the new year is to try and dedicate more time for yourself. When we're recovering, we do need to spend a lot of time focusing on ourselves and not so much on other people. And one of the ways that I do this, like I've said, is by taking those 20 minutes sort of after dinner time and just trying to reflect a little bit. And that is something that I did in my recovery. I had a journal, and rather than it being a journal full of negativity, I tried to just kind of reflect on what I was struggling with or what was there. And as I mentioned before, what actually came out isn't necessarily conscious thoughts that we have, but kind of a subconscious. I'm going to put a link to what I did write yesterday. And I guess that would be my challenge for you in the new year, is to give yourself kind of, you know, 20 minutes if you can find it. I know that we all have very busy lives, and it can be very difficult, but to take that time, and I don't know whether you want to write or whether you want to draw or whether you want to kind of just sit and be very still with a piece of music. But I think it's important that you just have some time for your head to kind of process everything. It's very easy to either feel like we're completely always doing something and distracting ourselves, or numbing ourselves in different ways through drinking, socializing a lot and all of that, and actually escaping ourselves, or to become very depressed, very submissive, very kind of isolated. And what I want that time to be, that 20 minutes to be, is a period of time whereby you can sit with yourself, and like I've said, it can be done in many different ways, and just kind of be, and allow things to just kind of unravel a little bit in your head. Because I think in today's society we are too rushed anyway, whether we're in recovery or not, and what is key to healing is having that time for yourself. So if you're thinking, oh my god, you know, the new year, I'm absolutely dreading it, rather than seeing it as something, as this huge big thing that's yet another year, just try and take it one day at a time. Try to just process things bit by bit by bit. And I think it is important to have goals, to have things that you want, to be able to say, you know, look into your future a little bit and say, do you know what, but this is what I want to do. And it's like me with my clinical training, that's what I want to do, that's where my passion is. So all the work that I'm doing now is about achieving that end goal. If I achieve that end goal, brilliant. If I don't, well, do you know what I mean, at least I've had something that motivates me, inspires me, and keeps me going in the process. And if the end goal isn't reached, well, that doesn't have to be the end of the world, because I think it's sometimes, I've got a quote here actually on my computer, and it says it's sometimes better to travel with hope than to arrive. So it's not so much the end point, it's more about how you're going about that and the way in which you're travelling. I've had to do this in small steps. It's been quite pressurised at times. It's felt very difficult at times because I feel under pressure from a lot of different areas. But all along I've had to assert myself and say, I will do this in my own time, because there's only me who knows my capabilities and knows my limits. And I have to learn from this summer, and this is what we have to do. When we look back over this year, okay, like Ariel said, if we look at each month at what we did achieve, we need to be proud of ourselves of that. And then if we feel strong enough and want to look at the things that were difficult, or where we kind of, I'm going to use the word fucked up, because we all fuck up and that's part of recovery, and look at that and think, how can I change that? And that's certainly something I've had to do over the past 5 months, and I've very much done it on my own. Yes, I talked to my friends, yeah, I've done my writing, but I've had to look at that and kind of think, you know, what is it that led me to do what I did in July? What is it that led me to have that breakdown? What can I learn? What can I take from that? What can I do differently? And I think think that if you're reflecting over the year, which I think is a positive thing to do in a lot of ways, but in a structured way, and the structured way I'm suggesting is what Ariel has advised in, by breaking up the months and saying, right, this is what I did, this is what I achieved, this is something I overcome, this is a trigger that I dealt with, and then maybe think about the things that were difficult and think, right, how could I do that differently? What advice, going back on a video a few weeks ago, what advice would I give to somebody else? And then for the new year, to see it in small stages, to see it in little steps that you're going to take to help move yourself forward. And I think that if you continue to follow these videos, I mean, you know, we're not Jesus Christ, and we're not professionals, and, you know, all we are is a group of people with experiences, and many of us who are recovered. And that doesn't mean that our lives are perfect. It doesn't mean that your lives are going to be perfect when you recover, but it does mean that, you know, you are fighting, you are living, you're not just existing within an eating disorder. And, you know, there's so much more hope there, and there's so much out there for you. And, you know, I kind of made a comment the other day, which was basically that, you know, 2011, I want it to be a good year, and then I kind of thought, no, it's not that I want it to be a good year, I'm going to make it a good year, and I'm going to be active, and I'm going to make sure that I have a good year next year, and I'm going to learn from what has gone on this year, and take that forward into a new year, and, you know, just continue to heal, to continue to grow, continue to learn, and continue to live, because that's all we're trying to do. I want to wish you all a really great new year. I've got plans. I've got my girlfriend coming up, and I'll be spending it with good friends. So whatever you're doing, you know, just take care of yourself. If it all feels too much, just look after yourself, okay? And I will see you in the new year. Okay, lots of love. Bye.